Hey artists, we are going to talk about landscapes today, and we're going to start off with a three-part landscape: a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. And then, of course, we need a horizon line to be in that landscape. So let's dive ahead and go to the next couple slides and talk about what these words mean. All right, so a foreground. A foreground is large, all right? Large objects located from the bottom of the paper to the top of the paper or close to the top, all right? These objects have a lot of detail because they are close to a viewer. Foreground. I'm in your foreground. All right, the middle ground are objects that are located in the middle of paper. These objects have less detail. All right, so middle ground, foreground, middle ground. And then your background are objects that are located towards the top or the back of the paper, near the horizon lines where objects are small and normally kind of out of focus. Foreground, middle ground, background. All right? We can do this with our hands too. All right? So remember, our foreground is large in front of us. We can see the details of our hand, and it reaches pretty much a lot of our view. Our middle ground is a little bit further back. Our hand is shrunk. Magic. Our hand is shrunk. It's in the middle ground. Less detail. Still pretty large, but less detail. And then if we move our foreground hand to the background, we can see that our hand shrunk again. But I thought it was, wait, large, medium, small. Foreground, middle ground, background, middle ground, foreground, foreground, middle ground, background, middle ground, foreground, middle ground, background, middle ground, foreground. All right, so my hand went large to small. It's like Grover in Sesame Street. You need to look that up, or I'll put that video on the bottom of this. Near, far, near, far, near, far, right? So the world gets, when we get closer, things get larger and more in view. And as we go further away, things are smaller. Now, in a landscape, things are near the horizon line where the sky touches the ground, off in the distance. When things are off in the distance, it's hard to view some of those things. Some of those things are small, out of focus, because they're really far away, right? Because they're near the horizon line, off in the distance, far away. So foreground, middle ground, background, off in the distance near the horizon line. Sky touches the ground. All right, let's take a look at this in a picture or a piece of artwork. Here we have the Starry Nights, so by Vincent van Gogh. And the horizon line, again, where the sky touches the ground, we have these light colored lines by the rolling hills. The background is the trees and the rolling hills. The middle ground is the city or the town. We can see the church steeple. We can see some of the buildings. Some of the lights are on. The rooftops get more detailed the closer they come. But what's really in the foreground is this beautiful cypress tree, and we can see the lines of the cypress tree as it's moving up. So the foreground is the cypress tree. Again, the middle ground is that town. The background is the rolling trees and the hills. And then you can see that line, that horizon line, where it's the lighter part of the sky or the clouds, where it's touching those darker hills. All right? All right, in this next slide, I want you to team up and figure out the three parts to each of these landscapes. And then if you can figure out where the horizon line is, and that part is hard in some of these because you can't always see where the sky is touching the ground, but you can figure out where that distance is, where the sky is touching the ground, what that horizon line could be. So don't talk about what's in the foreground. What's in the middle ground? What's in the background? Where is that horizon line? What are those things that you're describing? Describe these things with each four of these pictures. All right. And then after you've gotten to that, you're going to come up to me, or I will pass out your mastery check. All right. And on this, you are going to, on the back side, you're going to divide your paper into four, and you're going to give me four thumbnail drawings of a three-part landscape. So the foreground, the middle ground, the background. And I would like you to put in a personal object in one of those spaces. Maybe your house or grandma's house or a friend's house, maybe your family riding bicycles, somewhere in the distance. Maybe a landmark of a place that you visited. I want either in the foreground, the middle ground, or the background. Don't forget that horizon line. All right. Put all that stuff on there and then turn that in, and we will figure it out whether or not we can move on to your next part of your landscape. All right. So go back and review if you need help with foreground, middle ground, and background and horizon line. Get started on your mastery check. If you need help, just holler, artists. Bye.